Hi there. Thanks very much. Thanks very much to James for a great presentation. I'm delighted to be here to talk to you about radio and primarily how we look at radio in terms of advertising, in terms of trying to sell what we do to clients and to really develop the notion of where radio is at in this world of ever-changing audio, as James has so well pointed out. Just a little bit about me, I guess. Is it working? Doesn't seem to be working, guys. Sorry. I'm pressing this one. James told me earlier, it's fine, it's just a button, press it. I'll try this one. Yeah, now it works, thanks. Let's hope somebody in the edits that one out. So just wanted to tell you a little bit about me. I'm Irish. I work in Ireland. I live in Tipperary. You know the song, It's a Long, Long Way to Tipperary. Sorry, guys. Now, is it good? You can see it? Okay, so just a little bit about me. I work mainly in commercial radio. I've also worked for the state broadcaster, which is called RTE, and I've worked in community radio as well. So my background more recently has been in commercial radio, where I ran a radio station for 15 to 34-year-olds in the one quarter of Ireland called Spin Southwest. At the moment, I'm working mainly with independent radio stations and commercial representative organisations in Ireland to develop training and to look at kind of the future of radio and where it needs to be. I put in a picture, I was going to put in a picture of myself, and then I thought, well, why am I doing that? I'm standing here. So this is the road that I walk every morning with my dog while I'm listening to a podcast that I work on called The Smart 7, which you should all check out. It's a great podcast. I'm going to try and do this. Yes, now it's working. So this presentation, really, I was asked to come to kind of give an overview of current research in Europe. I know June spoke earlier, and she had an amazing presentation around sort of the situation in Malaysia at the moment and where things are at post-COVID. So this presentation will really look at Ireland, the UK, and with some innovative sort of research that's informing how German radio is selling its advertising to clients. And then really it's just about what your story is and how you consider how your radio station, how your organization, how you are developing your own story in terms of how you're talking to clients or talking to brands and how you're developing, I suppose, and building on the power of radio. So this slide is taken from research that was completed and published recently in Ireland. It's about, I suppose, setting the scene for Irish radio. And at the very top, you can see, can you read it properly? Can you see that it's quite small, I think? But the very top is RTE News. So that's the state broadcaster, and there's huge levels of trust. So the purple lines are the trust. Huge levels of trust in the state broadcaster, and then the Irish Times, which is the main newspaper, print newspaper, and then underneath that, which is really good, is regional and local radio. So we can see that the trust levels are extremely strong. The purple and the grey combined are greater than RTE Radio, the state broadcaster, and that research was undertaken shortly after the very first kind of lockdown in COVID. So that's kind of the current situation and the most recent research. And as you go down, you can see that individual newspapers and individual radio stations are mentioned as well. But trust is really important for Irish radio, for Indigenous Irish local and independent commercial media. So we can see here that advertising messages are seriously trusted on Irish radio stations, which is really important to be able to communicate this to clients, to have this research, and this was conducted by the Radio Research Centre in Ireland with Amorach Research, their research company. And so people were asked, you know, to what extent do you trust the advertising that you hear on Irish radio? And you can see the green, and the lower one, it's very strong for Irish radio. As the graph progresses, you can see it gets lower and lower, and then it's, you know, the least trusted is on social and online. So we can see that we've trust in the providers, we have trust in the advertising that we hear, and then, you know, that is translated. And having these statistics has been proved to be really, really important when going out to clients and going out to brands and going out to deliver ideas and get your foot in the door in terms of Ireland. So 63%, which I think is quite a high figure, and I think June would have had similar enough statistics in her presentation earlier today, which you no doubt would have seen. So 63% of adults take action when they hear an ad on Irish radio, which is amazing. Less and less then as you go down to the socials at the very end. So in terms of where we're at now, obviously we're still wearing masks. I'm wearing a mask when I'm not presenting. You know, traveling to get here was you know, tedious in some ways in terms of COVID restrictions. Our lives have changed. Our situation has changed, maybe our perspectives have changed, and COVID has had a real impact. This is the impact of COVID, I suppose, in Ireland in terms of people's lifestyles. 4 in 10 people working at home, but they're listening more to radio. The commute is gone. They're at home more, they have more free time. 29% of people working from home are listening to a bigger variety of radio stations. So you have more time, you can go here for this in the morning, you can go here for that in the mid-morning, you can go to somewhere for lunchtime, and what do you want in the afternoon, in the evening, it changes. And people are using more devices. And that's linked to being able to be mobile, I suppose, with your, you know, if you're at home, you're able to do more recreation, you use your phone, you use your, you know, in-home radio. I suppose most people here mightn't know, but we don't have DAB in Ireland. The radio stations are all either FM or you can listen online on your phone. So we're still in that situation. Looking at the UK, and this is from Radio Centre in the UK, this is research that they've published recently, and at the end of the presentation I will give you links to all the research, because it's not my research, it's just a gathering of research to show you the picture in Europe, so just to be clear. So the impact is similar enough to Ireland in terms of the UK. They probably had stricter lockdowns than we did during COVID. But I suppose the silver lining was that more people had more time, and their time was their own, and they were at home more, and they had more choice of you know, what to listen to. And as you can see, a third of commercial radio listeners have tuned in for longer, which is really important. So they're listening for an additional an hour, nearly, and 40 minutes, which is a huge amount of time in terms of extra time to be listening. Just to tell you a little bit about the research that I'm going to be using, the slides that I'm quoting from for the Radio Centre. They're really, really excellent. They speak at a lot of Radiodays events. They are so strong in terms of their messaging and in terms of their methodology and how they collect their data. They've been doing this for a long time now, and they're very clear about their mission. And we've started in Ireland a radio centre, and it's very much, I suppose, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, based on what Radio Centre in UK have done. So at the point when they had 1,000 campaigns undertaken, in terms of showing, you know, clients and advertisers, if you spend on radio, let's measure it and see what effect this has. They've built up a huge data set. And they then use that data set after running 1,000 different campaigns for different clients, different brands, to develop some sort of understanding of what is the best practice for radio advertising. In terms of COVID, obviously the impact is very similar to the one in Ireland, with more people working from home. They looked at it in a bit more in depth, and they were, who are the people and what are their ages? And you can see the blue is 16 to 34, and then the yellow is 55 plus, and then the black is in the little bit. So they can see that these people are young professionals, they're working from home, they're using tech, and they have income to spend, which is obviously what you want to hear. This, I suppose, echoes a lot of what we know about radio and how we sell radio and how we say that radio is really important. And, you can do many things while you listen to the radio. You can iron, you can do the washing up, you can cook your dinner, you can do all of this. And all these reasons, and people still do all these things, and they still stand. And they're still standing now. So those old arguments, cool new tech, yes, but the reasons people listen to radio for connection, for entertainment, for local news, for traffic reports, to find out what's going on in the world, and for that emotional attachment, they're all still there. But in their research, they found that there was a huge benefit for advertisers, and that in the UK, like in Ireland, people are quite responsive to radio advertising. And this is something that Ralph spoke about earlier in his session, with that emotional attachment and that audio that gets you, quicker and deeper than anything that you'll see or read if you hear something. And that comes out quite strongly in the research that the UK did. So it was really interesting to hear his amazing talk this morning. So this was a really interesting part of their research, and as I've said, I'll put the link to the research for anybody who wants to read the full report. But it's worth looking at in terms of how, media plans are made, and how radio can uplift, and how radio can add, and what radio will give you, and how radio can disseminate your messages, and how you can use that kind of information as a tool when you're selling to clients and when you're getting brands to come on board with you and to use campaigns in new ways on radio, in addition to using it online and, for print or for above-the-line campaigns. So they've some really interesting stats there. There's like 5 times more awareness. There's, in terms of brand relevance and brand trust, radio really works to positively impact advertisers who want to spend on radio. In the UK, they split it up in terms of what are the factors that really works with radio. And there's like fixed factors, which they said are kind of out of the control of the radio station. So those fixed factors are, the brand values, the brand history, what is that brand, what does it mean already to people, what kind of purchase are you looking for, and the sector that you come from. But the variable factors, and this was something that Ralph spoke about, it's that creative execution and those awful ads that every radio station plays, because often they're the clients that will, be your bread and butter, which is the voiceover artist telling you, buy this, sale now, contact us, go online, very boring, rip and read, put a bit of music underneath, 20 seconds, grand, but instantly forgettable. Whereas that kind of creative, that smoking ad gets me every time I hear it. It's just so creative, so evocative, and it'll stick with you. That creative execution, and then how you weight your campaign, both of those are things that the radio station have a real say in, and they're the things that you should consider when you're creating. You've identified your brand, you've convinced them that working on radio, advertising on radio will work. You've shown them that there's trust. You've shown them that radio adds and uplifts. And then you have to say, okay, how are we going to do it? How are we going to be creative here? This is a really quick slide on the different sectors, which might be of interest to you, that really experience that uplift. And I think it's quite interesting, personal finance, retail, and personal care right up there. Motors, business to business, travel, they're huge. So they really, those retail sectors are really important for anyone working in terms of trying to plan, putting your resources where you'll get the most bang for your buck. This one is back again to Ireland, just in terms of 71% say radio is a good way for brands and advertisers. You know, the audience is looking for it, they're hungry for it. This slide is really the top line results of the Radio Gauge survey. And I suppose it's about taking the demand that's already out there, converting it, lifting it, improving the efficiency of it, and being creative, and running ads, I suppose, on a weekly reach, because it's all about reach now, to build that brand awareness and message building and give you those stronger effects that you're looking for. This is a quick one, but I've kind of spoken about it already, and I'm conscious of time, but creativity is key. Like the UK research is really detailed there on what, that kind of, that audio sort of evocation of emotion that Ralph was talking about. The Irish are just like, well, if you can make it real life and if you can make me laugh, then I'll probably buy your product because I'll remember it when I'm going looking for it, which is really quite a good explanation of the difference between English people and Irish people. So just that's a little cultural thing for you there. Speaking of cultural differences, this is something that I came across and I thought might be really interesting for you to take away from this session today. It's a really innovative approach to advertising and how you sell advertising and how your radio station owns the advertising that it sells and takes responsibility for it and takes pride in it. This is Media Plus. So they're a group in Germany. I think they have offices in Asia. I know that their Asian headquarters, I think, are based in Japan, but I think they have some locations that sell for them in Malaysia, so you may be aware of them. And it's all really around the environment and climate and how sustainable or how green radio advertising is. So this is a slide that, part of their research showing how the German public are more and more interested in climate awareness. Now, this was published last year or early this year, and I would imagine that even since then, all of our awareness, I mean, the issues in Pakistan at the moment, the wildfires, the heat, Ireland had a heat wave for 2 days and we all nearly lay down and died. We would never survive in these temperatures in Kuala Lumpur, I can tell you that. So people are more and more interested in this, and this is affecting how people are choosing to spend their money because they're thinking about sustainability, they're thinking about environmentally friendly, being aware, and it is really increasingly a factor in whether people are purchasing or not. And if you think about the retail sectors that in the slide earlier that I was showing you about radio, it's really, really important. If you look at motors, this is a huge, how do we make these two things collide? But the Germans have developed a system, and it's an excellent one, and it is measured through data, and it really focuses on your advert, if you're a client or a brand, if you make a TV advert, if you make a cinema advert, or if you make a radio advert or a paper advert, what is the actual impact in terms of the environmental impact of your ad? What's the measurement in CO2 emissions that making and airing this ad is going to do for you? And what they've done is they've shown, that radio is one of the cleanest and greenest methods of advertising. From everything from recording a script, writing a script, the creative brief, coming up with that, distributing it, the transmission of it, the whole thing, everything they have measured, and they can put a figure on it. And as you can see from the circle, you can offset your carbon costs, you can own your carbon costs, you can decide how you want to deal with them, you can be verified by them, and your advertiser gets a little stamp that they can stick on their print or on their online, that they can shout about being an environmentally friendly, green, and very aware advertiser, and they are loving it. So this is, the way you sell it to clients is that this, greens your brand. It shows your consumers that you're aware of this right down to your advertising. It bigs up the advertiser, it bigs up the brand, and it works for everyone. So I think that we know that there's trust in radio. We know the trust still stands. We know that there's trust in advertising. We know that people are more inclined to buy when they hear on the radio. We need to use these stats, but we also need to develop, and we need to innovate, and we need to look at what other people are doing. I know that I'll be taking away some of the learnings. Oops. That was me telling me shut up. And I know that I'll be taking away some of June's findings from Malaysia and bringing those back to Ireland and to Europe. And that's it. And thank you so much. I'm done and dusted. Thank you. They're the sources for anyone who wants to look at the research in depth. There are all the sources there for you, and I'm happy if you want to connect with me on SwapGuard to share any information that you might like to have. Thank you.